Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Today we're going to do my recommendations for May's Buzzwordathon. So in May, the prompt or the word in the title is a direction. So it could be like up or down, left or right, north or south. That's one of my titles, which you're getting a little preview of. But first we're going to start with the Agatha Christie though, which I have chosen Evil Under the Sun. This one I have chosen because the word under is a kind of a direction. I really loved this one. It's a 4-star for me, but it's really fun. It has a great mystery twist with Poirot being on vacation. Like I always say, never good. But he goes on vacation to a little resort, and it is a kind of a closed room mystery kind of thing, because it's only people at the resort who could have done it. And a woman goes missing and she's found dead. It is a lot of fun. It's one of the short ones and I really enjoy it. I don't want to say too much more though, because Agatha Christie I find is best when you kind of go in blind. I think this one's really fun though. Like I said, Hercule Poirot holiday. So this is set on a hot beach. It's set with a lot of interesting characters and it's set in a hotel with the beachside. I think you'd enjoy it. So since I spoiled this one, I will just go with North and South. This is by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a bit of a big one, but well worth the effort. And this one is like Pride and Prejudice set in the Victorian era with social commentary. If you like anything of those, you will enjoy this. This one follows Margaret Hale as she is taken from her home in London to a very small town where they are really a factory town essentially, and she meets John Thornton and he owns a factory, but her father is kind of on the poorer side and Margaret is trying to learn what life is like, not in her higher class that she was in. It's a really interesting story about social class and also about how life was for those who were working in the factories. And it's also told against this really interesting love story. And like I said, if you enjoy Pride and Prejudice and social commentary and the Victorian literature side of things, this is a really great one to check out. And if you do want to bridge into Victorian literature, but you don't know where, and you enjoy Pride and Prejudice or Jane Austen at all, Elizabeth Gaskell is a great place to start, and this one would be a really great one I would recommend. Speaking of Jane Austen, Northanger Abbey is a great one too. This one is her first written novel, but last published, as this was published after she died. It's very tiny, and it is a very different style than her other novels. This one kind of makes fun of the Gothic novels, all while having a young heroine who's like 17. I might be wrong on that age. Please don't quote me. I cannot remember since it's been a while since I've read this one. But young Catherine, she is very naive. She is very full of life and full of zest, but she's also full of books. And she doesn't realize that sometimes books aren't reality. And I wish I would live that world sometimes. But she is very much into the Gothic literature. And sometimes that leads to imagining things that aren't quite true. It's really fun, and I hope you pick this one up if you've never read Northanger Abbey. A children's book, well, not really a children's book, there is an adult book that goes with it, is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I have a children's version of this that I have read and enjoyed. I think this is a really great way to read children's classics with a very short style. This is like 50 pages, and it has illustrations. If you get your hands on one of these, they're fun. I have several of these. I like more though for my personal collection. But this one follows just the story of how Fop goes around the world in 80 days. Sorry, Fog. Don't know why I said Fop. But Fog goes around the world in 80 days, and it's really interesting. Around, I would say, is a direction word, so we're gonna go with that one. And this is personally a kid's book, but you can also read the adult book if you wanted another one. I haven't read the adult version yet, but I will one day. A nonfiction that I loved was The Fall of Anne Boleyn. So this is A Countdown by Claire Ridgway. I really loved this one. It is so interesting and so fantastic. It is really a countdown, like it says, and so it has the date and it has the events that happens on that day, and then the next day it has the next date going toward her death. I think this is a really interesting look at Anne Boleyn's life and how she ended up being in that impossible situation and sent to the Tower before her death. Obviously she dies, but this does an interesting look at how that all plays out and what is happening around King Henry during that time and who's going to be next in power. I think this is a really fascinating look at that time period in history and a really interesting look at the people in Anne Boleyn's life as she was going through this event. So I would recommend this one extremely if you would like to check it out. I'd also recommend Key West. So this one is by Lynn A. Coleman. This is a novella collection, which are all set in the island of Key West. And this is a Christian fiction novella collection, but they're all really short. And I really enjoy all of these. It's all a collection of short stories, well, collection of novellas, I should say, where they all are related to each other. And I really like this one. I have kept this book myself for a long time because I've actually reread many of these stories a few times because I've enjoyed them so much. The characters are really well developed from story to story, and you do see them grow from the first novella to the last novella. And I think it's a really interesting way to have this little island have their own personality and these characters, and a really interesting look at the Caribbean. So I'd recommend this one. Another nonfiction that is about a cult I really enjoyed was called Unfollow. So this is a memoir about loving and leaving the Westboro Baptist Church. So West is in the subtitle. This is by Megan Phelps Roper. This is a really interesting biography about the Westboro Baptist Church, where they are really hateful towards anyone who doesn't follow their exact sect of Christianity. And they are very loud and very riotous, I would say, or maybe protesting. They are extreme, and this is about her experience growing up in that. She was kind of in that first family of the church, and how she discovered what was going on and how to leave it, essentially. It was a very interesting biography, and I'd highly recommend this one. There is another book about this, but it is not as well written. I would recommend that one as well, though, if you would like to check it out. And that was not by someone who was born into the cult. It was someone whose family joined the cult. I'll put the picture here. I don't remember it exactly, but this one is definitely the one I would highly recommend, and the other one I would recommend as well. I would also recommend a series which I have really enjoyed. There's many books in this series. I don't even know how many, but they are all by Jeanette Oak, and they are the Women of the West series. So they are all books that are individual, but they all take place in the West, and they are very interesting stories depending on what you want. So this one is A Bride for Donegan, which is about basically a mail order bride, and I really enjoyed this one. The Bluebird and the Sparrow, which is a childhood favorite of mine. And then The Calling of Emily Evans, which is about a female missionary. A Woman Named Damaris, about a woman who has no family. And A Gown of Spanish Lace, which it's been a while since I read it, but this is about a woman who I think was found as a baby by herself, and her only possession is a gown that she has of Spanish lace. So these are all stories that take place in the West. They are clean, kind of teenage YA romances, if you want to call them that, and they are Christian, but I really love them just for having a really quick and easy read, and they all are in the Women of the West series. Another children's mystery book that I loved was The Body Under the Piano by Marta Jocelyn. This one is the first book in the Aggie Morton series, and this one is such a great one. I really enjoyed the mystery and meeting little Agatha Christie when she was about 11 years old, as she discovered a body and used her powers of deduction at such a young age and her massively obsessive creative skills to solve a crime. She meets a little boy called Hector Perrot, who's about her age as well, and he is from Belgium, and it is very, very fun. If you know her world at all, you know who he's based on, or who is based on him, I should say. It's really fun. I love the world that Marta Jocelyn created, and it's all based on her biography and other true books that are set around that time, or historical books, I should say. So I really enjoyed that book. I've read book 2, loved it as well, and I can't wait to read book 3, but book 1 totally fits this prompt. The last one I'd like to recommend is Born Standing Up. This one's by Steve Martin, and this one is his memoir, essentially, and it's about him getting into comedy, and I really enjoyed this. I listened to it on audio, and I thought that it was such an interesting look at his sense of how he got into comedy, his first jobs, and how he really found a way to make people laugh. This was really fun, and I thought this was hilarious. I really enjoyed laughing along with all the things, but also learning about the hard times as he was trying to get into that industry and all of the adventures that came along with it. It was not long, and I really thoroughly loved it, and I'd highly recommend checking out Born Standing Up. So for myself, I have 4 options. So I have Two Girls Down, which is by Louisa Luna. I have this from an old Page Habit box, and I have yet to read it, so I would like to read it at least soon-ish. This one is a mystery, and maybe I'll be in the mood for it. That's the hope. I also have Growing Up in Slavery. This one is edited by Eula Taylor. This one is stories of young slaves as told by themselves. So obviously very hard-hitting, very difficult topics, but at the same time very important. And I had picked this one up from my thrift store a long time ago, and I've been waiting for a time when I feel maybe emotionally prepared to read it, but I think there'll never be the right time. So I will try to pick this one up in May. And I also have physically North Point Chalet, which is a retelling of Northanger Abbey. And this one obviously has the word North in the front, and this one is by Deborah Whitesmith. I also have We Go Down as an ebook, and I can't remember who the author of this, but I have it as a Kindle book. So I would be potentially reading that one too. So I have 4 options for my own TBR. So I have these 3 plus an ebook, and those would be my recommendations. I hope that you pick something, whether it be from your own TBR or something that I recommend. Please tell me what you'd recommend for a directional word that would be in a title. I'd love to hear your ideas. Please leave a comment down below and subscribe if you are new here, and like this video if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.